Hi, everybody. This is Mary Kelly. I'm excited to talk to you today about the need for succession planning in our businesses today. Many of our young folks want to find out, do I have a career at this organization? Some of our more senior people are worried about, when do I think about retiring? Some of our middle managers are wondering, is there going to be a place for me to move up anytime soon? Regardless of where you are in the organization, succession planning means having viable careers for everyone in the organization, making sure people understand those career options, and conveying that to the people who matter. So let's get started. This is about not just filling that one chair that we oftentimes think about when we think about who's at the top, the president, the owner, the CEO, what happens when they decide to move on to another organization, decide to found another organization, decide they're going to retire, decide they're going to take that world cruise for 180 days. Whatever it is, it's not just the top chair, it's all the chairs. So what we have to think about is, if you have your own business, a family business, or even a business that you're thinking about, do I sell it? Do I turn it over? What does that look like? How do you plan on doing that? Now, you're all already awesome leaders, or you wouldn't be even part of this program. Can anyone actually replace you? Does anybody know what you know? Probably not. Does anyone else know what it is you actually do that makes the company so successful? Probably not there either. Now is the time to start grooming people to take over for you. I have one organization that says, we would like to promote this tier of people, but you can't be promoted until you've already identified and trained your replacement. Now, that's an organization that takes leadership succession planning seriously. And then, of course, we want to discuss what steps can we take in order to build our leadership bench and plan for future leadership, and not just plan to put a person in that chair, but really plan on them being wildly successful when they get that chair. And this is all about how we leave our legacy, what we want to do to help others. Now, leadership is complicated, especially now. But I said that a couple of years ago. Leadership has always been difficult if you do it right, because a great leader, it's not just the job. It's not just a job called leadership. No, it's a position. But it's also the behavior. It's how you emulate to other people. It's what you emulate to other people. It's your attitude. It's how you convey everything that is your company's values, your integrity, your decision-making ability, how you communicate with other people. It's all of these things. And let's face it, it's tough if you do it right. So some background on me, as some of you already know, I was in the Navy for about 25 years on active duty. I went to the Naval Academy. I had a fun time, mostly in Asia. Most of my career was in Asia, except for one tour. That was back teaching at the Naval Academy. I am a card-carrying, crystal ball-toting economist. I get up every single morning with coffee, and I look at economic data for about 3 hours. That is how I start pretty much every single day. I know. You can roll your eyes. I love to travel. I've been to Machu Picchu. It was life-changing. And I do think that however old you are, it's a good goal to visit that many countries. It's a goal for me too. And I write leadership and business growth books. Look, I know we're in a global pandemic. I understand that this is a really tough time, and it is affecting everybody, because we've now got firms without cash, businesses without storefronts, and businesses suddenly without work. They were thriving before this, and all of a sudden we don't have work. So what does that look like? And what do we as leaders have to do in order to help our people through this? Well, first off, we have to reassure our customers, not only with what we say, but also with what we do. Certain hardware stores close by me put somebody at the front door and passed out masks before people really started to have masks as a common practice. Restaurants were showing people how they prepare food so that you could see the chefs and the staff being very safe. Everybody is cleaning everything. I don't know about you, but I feel safer on planes and in hotels and in restaurants than I've ever felt before. Expo halls, I'm all about it. Everything is cleaner than it's ever been. Now, is this a market? You bet. Is this an opportunity for some businesses? You bet. If you're in the cleaning or supplying cleaning materials or doing those kinds of jobs, this is a great opportunity. So yes, it is tough to look at a global pandemic and look at your industry that's been hit hard. Let's face it, hit hard. and try to see opportunities. But this is all about leadership. A leader has to be an optimist. A leader does not have the luxury of abandoning hope. That's what my friend Peter Stark says. I say a leader has to be an optimist. Now, an optimist is not somebody who wakes up in the morning and says, oh, sunshine and rainbows and sparkles and unicorns. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a leader who wakes up as an optimist and looks at a tough situation and says, I can make that better. That to me is an optimist. So remember, we're only as strong as our weakest link in our organization. If you've got a single point of failure in your organization, guaranteed that's going to be the first place where something breaks. Now, keep in mind, before this global pandemic hit, and it doesn't matter what you think the crisis is that we're in now, we've got a retirement crisis where 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every single day. And with a more challenging workforce and workplace and environment, more people are going to be retiring at increased numbers, which means you got to have a plan. And we were coming off of really great economic period of terrific development. It was fairly easy to make money. We were doing really well, pretty darned okay. But all of a sudden this hit, and like a big spotlight, it pointed out where the cracks in our business foundations were and are. So this is a great opportunity for us to fix those cracks. Some of those cracks may be in leadership. A lot of leaders were sitting in certain chairs and doing okay, because it just wasn't that hard to make profit. And now it's harder. So leadership is more important than ever. What do we need to do for the economy to recover? Well, we've got to balance our jobs and our business and the economy with managing this particular crisis. Now, look, we've always had flus and viruses and bacteria. We're human. We have all of these all the time. We're going to have to figure out how to live with them forever. This is not something that's just going to magically go away. Will your leadership change? Yes, your leadership will have to change. Everyone's leadership is having to change. And then there's an opportunity to hear, how can we convey this? What do we do? It's an opportunity for us to better communicate things by pioneering different developments. And then we can see solutions. And so this is how that whole paper is mapped out. We don't have time to go through all of this right now, because we need to be focusing on succession planning for our organization. So this is a book. It came out in March of 2020, and we did a soft relaunch in November of 2020. This also comes with a tools library workbook, which is a full 8.5 by 11 manual that goes with it, so that if your company wants to start working on this right away, they grab the book, they get the workbook, and you can start working through solutions right away. The workbook also comes with an online vault. We have to understand moving forward what's going on with our workforces. So remember, just a couple fun facts, I'm an economist. About 1/3 of our country's total workforce comes from the baby boomer generation, those born between 1944 and 1964. And again, like I mentioned, about 10,000 of those folks are turning 65 every single day. And most people say they want to retire around age 67, but the average American has to retire at age 63, either because of their own health issues, the health of a spouse or another family member, or maybe they're caring for aging parents. So we know we're in a talent shortage a year ago, but right now things look a little bit better. Again, because of the unemployment, and also because with the work from home shift, this is a great opportunity. Before, we felt as though you had to show up at headquarters, you had to show up at the office, you had to show up at work, and now you can work from anywhere. We don't have to pay Manhattan salaries if everybody is working from home. We can hire somebody from Oklahoma. We can hire somebody from Kansas. On the plus side, we can also hire somebody from Bangladesh or Pakistan or the Philippines. So we've got to not only be more competitive as employees, but we've also got to be looking globally for our best talent. And for some organizations, this has meant I don't need that office space anymore, and I can hire more people from different places. So a succession crisis that we're looking at right now, when what we found is CNBC surveyed, and they found that 28 million small businesses currently operating in the United States, well, for more than half of those, their owners are over the age of 50. Now, not to give you too much information, but I'm over the age of 50, and I'm here to tell you I don't intend to quit work anytime soon. But when somebody asks me, do you intend to sell your business? Okay, but have all of us figured out a viable succession plan for our business? And this is where it suddenly gets hard, especially if you're the owner or the founder. And we want to make sure that we are operating in a mode that allows us to plan. And it's very difficult to do this because day-to-day operations simply get in the way. If I asked you, do you have 4 hours every single week to devote to succession planning? You would say, no, I'm already, fill in the blank, busy. Of course you are. I know that. Handling today's crisis is mandatory. Worrying about the future seems optional. And as a result, we tend to procrastinate on it. So our goal in writing this book was to help people make the commitment to protect what you've built your whole life or your whole career or the whole time you've been in this job. Protect your organization, protect your future employees, protect your current employees, and take care of your customers with a strategy that allows for progress. So keep in mind, this is something businesses need to start now. It is not something you do in a 4-hour block at your yearly succession or your yearly strategic planning retreat. And then you file it away and say, yeah, we'll pull out that plan if somebody decides to retire or get sick or leaves or dies. I hope that doesn't happen. But this is what a lot of people think. We'll just put together a plan and we'll just redo the org chart with a pencil and we'll scratch out Joe Bob's name and put in Sally's name and we're going to be fine. No, that is not a succession plan. We have to remember that if you're asking your employees to just scramble to cover people when they leave, that's not exactly a plan. And right now, we do have higher demands on our workers. Solid industries, strong businesses with solid foundations, and organizations that can be agile and respond quickly. So I need to share with you, I am working with an organization I dearly love, but they were one of those organizations that did so well for 50 years that change is just really tough for them. And to me, I'm looking at the demographics and the data, and I'm saying, look at this market share that nobody is capturing. You could have this market share, you can jump on in, and here's how you do it. And so what do? They put together a committee of people who have no decision-making ability. And as a result, we've been working on this for 6 months and they still have not been able to move into this market because they're so slow. Now, are they a great company? They are, but they are not agile and they don't respond quickly. The companies that will do the best moving forward are those who can respond quickly. So when we think about succession planning, a lot of times it does start with the CEO, but it should be about every single important position in your organization. If your VP of sales leaves, does anybody else know how to do what they do? If your finance person leaves, does anybody else know what they know how to do? Will other people around that position be anxious about their future? If you go to your CEO and say, hey, I'm the COO, I've been here for 9 years, and I'm just wondering, what's the plan? When are you leaving? They might be very offended. They might be very upset. And here's the problem with that. Your senior leaders should never wonder about where they are in the organization and where they might be going. That creates more uncertainty for them. And if they don't have the plan to move forward for their own personal career, guess what? They're going to be looking elsewhere. And right now, even with a higher unemployment number, there's still a search for top talent. And your customers want to know that there's a plan moving forward. So let's think about what happens next and who comes next, because this is the question we're trying to answer. When we pass the baton, this is not something that happens overnight. This is something that is planned for. That person identified is trained. They are matriculated properly. They are introduced to the board. They are introduced to customers. My financial planner, I think, did this right. She was older than me by a few decades. And when I met with her, she said, I need you to understand that I know I'm not going to be around forever. And I was like, oh, no, you're great. She says, no, I'm not going to be around forever. So I want to introduce you to the rest of the team. And here's what's great. At any time, you're going to have a single point of contact. And right now it's me. But in the future, it's going to be this person. And if for some reason he's not available, you call this person or this person. She said, everybody on the team is here to back you up. Everybody on the team is here to help you. Everybody on the team knows who you are, understands your concerns, and is here to serve you. Whoa, wow, that's huge. So this is the kind of long-term sustainability we're looking for our customers as well. So Meredith and I started this project a couple of years ago. And our CEO that we were working with on this one particular project looked at both of us and said, hey, I'm going to need all this in one book. And we had put together this great binder at the end of a 12-month project, this big binder of what was going to happen next. And we'd mapped out the next 4 years. We thought that was the book she was talking about. No, she said, I'm going to need something to remind me and the team of what we need to be doing. Have you guys thought about putting this in a book? And we looked at each other and said, well, I guess we're going to have to write a book. And that's where this came from, because we realized that succession planning doesn't just affect the CEOs and the presidents and the owners. It also affects your C-suite senior leaders. You need a transition planning team to put this together. Your high potential employees want to know that there's a viable career path for them. Your boards of directors want to make sure that you know what's going to happen next. Your partners, suppliers, and vendors also want to know that you're in it for the long haul. And your clients and your customers want to make sure that when they pick up the phone and call you, they get an answer. They don't get that person's no longer here. Please move on to somebody else. So I love this because many people think it's just the people at the top, and that is not true. So this is probably my favorite slide. Feel free to take a picture of it. And if either Meredith or I can help you with any of this, just let us know. We are happy to walk you through this. So let's start with that CEO, president, or owner. Again, if you founded the company, it can be very, very difficult to walk away from the company. And we certainly understand that. But again, that outgoing leader has to discuss their potential retirement or their moving on to another organization. If you're the person in charge and you're not talking about the day you walk out the door, this can be a serious roadblock, either because people will think, well, there's no career opportunity for me, or they're going to start looking elsewhere too. So again, from the perspective of senior leaders, retirement or leaving that job that has been their identity might represent a loss. They may grieve this process. It's a loss of purpose and power and structure and camaraderie and validation of what it is they do. Remember, many of our senior leaders have spent their entire careers building this legacy, and that stops when they walk away from the organization. And it can be really tough on people to think about a day that they wake up and they don't have to get dressed and go to the office or work on the business. We can't emphasize enough how difficult it is for people who love their business to walk away, especially if they did build it from the ground up. So if you're the person at the top, we want to encourage you to talk with a trusted advisor, a corporate advisor, about what you think retirement is like and what you think the business would look like if you were not there. Do you dream about retirement or do you dread it? Have you already made exciting plans for that part of your life? Or does retirement make you think about just sitting at home watching TV every day and being bored? Now, some of my senior execs say things like, I don't trust anyone else to take over my business. Look, we get it. Nobody else knows what you know. It's time to change that. So you need to start by implementing policies that allows you to be turning over more projects to other people so that you are their hammock. You are backing them up so that you're there to help them move through this, especially if it's one of those people you're thinking about taking over the organization. Provide more shadowing opportunities for you with leaders who could be moving on up as well. Make sure that those tiers of roles and responsibilities are ready for the next level. And again, many of our leaders say, nobody else knows what I know. That's probably true. It's time to start sharing your knowledge with other people. And this is all part of overcoming the obstacles that many of the senior leaders we work with have. So we created, as part of the Tools Library Workbook, an obstacles assessment. And it just helps us with the top executives. And we just say, hey, let's be really, really honest, go. And it takes not even 2 minutes. And this helps them identify, hey, why am I not thinking about succession planning? Why am I not thinking about who's going to replace me? And it could be any one of these 10 items listed in the obstacles assessment. Now, there's also obstacles assessments for family business owners. And some of you may be in that family business situation. And I I admire it so much when families can work together and live together and be focused on common goals and visions. But we also know that sometimes it can be hard to leave business at work when you work with the people you love. So family businesses, there's an entire chapter just on family business challenges, and they've got their own, of course, obstacles assessment. Another obstacle we hear all the time is other people won't be as dedicated to this job as I am. Okay, well, they won't be if you don't give them the chance. Other people want the opportunity to contribute, and they may surprise you with their level of dedication for the organization and the job. Nobody knows how hard I work, even when I'm not here. Okay, so start delegating. Start figuring out how you're going to pass along more of these jobs to other people. Give your people the chance to step into those roles, expand their skills and knowledge without being sidetracked or derailed or the fear of making mistakes. You're still there to help them learn. This will help you reduce your workload because, again, some of my top execs are saying, I'm just so tired. I'm just so burned out. I can't do this for more than another year. Well, now is the time to start solving those problems. Delegate more now. Delegate more frequently. Reduce your own workload while giving others a chance to understand what it is you do, the complexity and the decision making. Some of my leaders say, I'm the only person driving innovation. You might be the smartest person in your organization. If you are the chief engineer who developed the product, you might be right. So build the team to help you with that burden. It seems so critical, as many people just think about when the CEO leaves, it's just one person that's effective. That's not true. If the CEO leaves and the team underneath them have not been told that they're going to move into a different job or a better job or even keep their job, they may be wondering, is my job safe? Do I need to be looking for another job? And I had this happen with a merger and acquisition. The CEO, they bought out the organization. The CEO was supposed to stay on for 2 years. Obviously, they had some disagreements, as what happens a lot of times in mergers and acquisitions. So the CEO left so he was the owner, he was the founder and the CEO. They kept him on running the company, but they clashed with leadership styles and goals. So he left after a year, and the new leadership of the merger and acquisition had not developed sufficient relationships with the rest of the C-suite. And as a result, when that CEO left, the rest of the team didn't feel as though they were secure at all in their jobs. So guess what? They all left too. So it wasn't just the person at the top, it was that whole tier. And all of a sudden, the M&A new management was scrambling to fill this. They were flying in their own teams, and they're trying to fill in the gaps. And this is not a company they had ever run before. It became a big problem. So making sure you understand that your C-suite level understands what their opportunities are and make sure they've got assurances on their job. There's always opportunities. This popped up right here in Colorado in the Park Meadows Mall. And I just think it's funny. In every crisis, there are always opportunities. We just have to see the opportunities. So when you're thinking about this for your business moving forward, think about where is there a need, not just in the community, but in our industry and in our business. And what does the future look like? Again, this requires some very deep and difficult thinking, which is why you put together a team, a transition planning team. And they are certainly affected by this as well. This is for leadership shifts, whether it's due to, again, illness or retirement, or maybe your hotshot president or CEO moves on to another organization. Leadership is constantly preparing for challenges, changes, and crises. And this means, number one, you have to rethink what it is your structure looks like. And I love succession planning because sometimes you say, wait a second, this isn't the right fit. This isn't the right organizational chart. This isn't what we actually need moving forward. So this allows us to look at our organization in a fresh new way. It refines our vision to give us a different perspective to see that our future success would be greater if we restructured the leadership team. And we might figure out that, guess what? We need to add positions that don't currently exist. We have an entire list of positions that don't exist now, but we think will exist in the future. And then design the organizational chart based on that. This is just a graphical description. There's a lot of ways to do this. There's free resources where you can map this out. You can do with sticky notes on a wall, whatever it looks like, and then figure this out, take a picture of it, and then get somebody to design this and look at maybe your top 5 executives or something in between, and then map this out. And it's more than just developing an org chart. It's developing the need for those positions moving into the future. I worked with an organization about 2 weeks ago, and they're trying to bring in a vice president of sales, which is really critical. But in doing that, I said, well, but what do these other people do? And they said, oh, they do sales too. I said, well, then they're going to fall under the salesperson. Well, no, they're not. Me. But why not? Because they never have. Oh, because we've never done it that way is an organizational killer. So please think about the future and develop the criteria and the competencies that you need for the future, not just today. Not just today. We're talking about growth. So some of these competencies might include your basic business judgment, conflict management, crisis management, decision-making skills, emotional intelligence, entrepreneurship, the ability to take risks and take the right risks for profitability and moving the organization forward. Financial acumen, like I was mentioning before, industry knowledge that you need in your industry, how well as a leader you influence others, integrity and moral courage, interpersonal skills, networking and relationship building, strategic thinking, talent development, and vision. What does that look like? And then get your HR professional, get your HR director together with the team and look at your inventory. And I know that inventory, when we talk about people, seems a little harsh, but that's not what I'm talking about. Sometimes we don't really get what our inventory looks like. We don't analyze our people and sit them down and say, hey, where do you want to be in this organization? What job would you like? And are you ready for that job? And yes, we do have a worksheet for that as well. So that when you analyze your HR inventory, some employees will learn that they thought they were in that place where they're going to be promoted and they're not. And when they get disappointed, they have a choice. They can either double down and get better so that they are a candidate for promotion, or they decide they're going to be sullen and cranky, and then it might be time for them to find another place to work. The long-term success of the company depends on moving the most qualified people into your targeted positions. Don't make the mistake, and it's one of the 5, we have another program on the 5 most common mistakes of succession planning. One of those mistakes is promoting people you like personally instead of the person who is best qualified. And this is a people puzzle. So in your strategic planning, here are questions to think about. You have to think big, you have to be proactive, and you have to stay flexible. And that's for the planning team. Again, for the planning team, they might run into obstacles because they don't know how to start the process. They may not know the specific plans or the timing for when people are thinking about leaving. They may not feel confident discussing a succession with the top people or even other employees. They may not know how to objectively identify the skills and requirements needed for not just the CEO and the president, but other important positions in the organization. They may not know what leaders or top talent or potential employees want to advance. They may not know what other people's career goals are. So this is part of the assessment. So start small. I know it seems like a very big project. Start with the critical areas, identify some critical team members, and then create some mini succession plans to move forward. We need people to be moving on this quickly, but I know the whole process seems very daunting, which is again why we mapped it out in the book. The military has to do this all the time. One of the radio shows I was on very recently, this person said, well, what would you, from the military, what would you know about succession planning in business? I said, what you have to understand is, first off, we don't get to hire people based on their talent. The military just sends us people. You have to make those people work in the organization. You have to make it fit. And you have to assess their strengths and figure out where they're going to best be successful. And you also have to understand that we change jobs in the military every 2 to 3 years. So think about that from an organizational structure issue. Every 2 to 3 years, 1/3 of your workforce is gone. 1/3 is gone. So you have to be constantly reiterating the vision. How do you clarify and reiterate your vision throughout the organization so that everybody gets it, from the person who's been there for forever to the person who started yesterday? You have to constantly train your people. And I'm talking good training. I am talking things that they can use, not the tired, old things we see every year. In my total combined 35 years of being part of government agencies, I had to sit through the same yearly training that had really not changed since the day I started. And every single year, we just dreaded this training because it wasn't interesting. It wasn't evolutionary. It didn't help me do my job better. It was just checking a box. So train, but train well. Plan for your replacement success. Do your people take pride in making sure their successors are successful? And if so, how do they do that? In the military, we create turnover binders. We put the information all together in both a physical and electronic binder so that the next person comes in isn't starting from ground zero. We share knowledge openly, and we assign people a sponsor when they first come into the organization. It's not their boss, because you don't want to ask your boss, hey, how do I, maybe I'm a smoker. When do I get to smoke? You don't necessarily want to ask your boss that if you know they don't like smoking in the workplace. So just keep in mind, you want to assign them somebody they can ask open questions to and kind of mentor them into the situation. So your organization might be able to benefit from this turnover by design military approach. And again, it's all relative. We love it when we get to do tours on board our ships where people say, wait, you sleep here and you work here and this is your personal space, because everything is relative. Everything is based on what you do. When you are an officer, you get a little bit larger space, which means there's one chair. And keep in mind, 6 people live in this space where that man is sitting right here. So this is just about how things are relative. And some people in business say, well, if I'm gone for the day and nobody notices, I can be fired. But what we say is, first off, if you are irreplaceable, you also can't be promoted. And as Commander Teresa Kelly, not me, says, hey, something my first chief taught me was to lead so that if you didn't show up one day, everything just runs perfectly. When you make yourself irreplaceable, you're actually letting the organization down because you have not adequately trained your people. And this directly affects your high potential employees. Now, your high potential employees are the people who are excited about the organization. They've got great skills and they want to use those skills, and they are affected by leadership changes. And if they do not feel as though they will have a career path, they will leave. At the beginning of this year, there was a survey that came out that said 71% of millennials would leave an organization if they felt as though they were not getting the personal and professional development they needed in order to be successful. They want a career path, and it's our job to matriculate that talent. This also has an impact on other employees throughout the organization. Every single employee within a company feels the impact of a change in leadership. All of a sudden, they see it happening and they're wondering, well, did they get fired? Did they retire? Are they sick? It creates uncertainty. You don't want to surprise your people by them showing up to work one day to find out that the CEO is gone. Well, were they removed? It's kind of like, you've maybe seen this, where during a football game, they suddenly fire the coach. Wait a second, what? And then you're supposed to go back on the field and play, and you're not really sure who the coach is, who's calling the plays. This creates wild uncertainty. And you think, oh, my basic employees won't really be affected by this. And that's not true. All of your employees have questions. Will the new CEO or the new leaders or the new vice president take the company in a different direction? Will our division be eliminated? If the owner retires, will the company shut its doors? Do I still have a job? If my boss moves to another department, what happens to me? How is this going to affect what was promised to me as for my review and my bonus? Are there any legitimate opportunities for advancement? What happens to me? Again, people get very myopic, rightly so. How long am I going to be in this position? What happened to my chances for promotion? Because my boss loved me and was actively promoting me for that promotion. Is that all gone? What happens next? And then what does it take for me to get promoted? Am I secure in this job? So you have to find out what your employees are thinking. From the employee perspective, what are some of the broad scale succession planning procedures and what are those tangible benefits? We know that workers will work harder and with more satisfaction if they see a place for them in the organization. Now, again, don't assume everybody wants to be promoted. That's not true. I had one really talented person work for me at an organization, and I couldn't figure out why he was working at a fairly entry-level job. He was older, he had great experience. And so I asked him one day, and I said, hey, can I just ask you a question? I said, are you happy here? And he said, oh, yes, boss. Well, what's he going to say? I said, no, I mean, are you happy in this job? He goes, oh, I love this job. I said, you have some, I've looked at your background. You've got some great experience in this and this and this and this and this. And he looked at me and he said, you know what? He said, that stressed me out. He said, I managed 250 people and I didn't sleep at night. I was stressed out all the time. I was always worried about my people. I hated it. He said, I love this job because you know what? I show up, I get to deal with our customers and our clients. I get to take great care of them. I love the organization. And when I go home, I sleep at night. I don't want the stress. Okay. I had assumed that because he had all this great experience, he wanted to be promoted, and I was wrong. So confidence and self-esteem increase by your employees and with your employees when they realize that they're being coached to whatever it is they want to do. And it might be a higher position, but it might not be. So we have to find out what our people at all levels are thinking, and that is a management and leadership issue. Be diligent about being transparent. Make sure your people know what's going on in your organization. There is a computer company that is famous for making job firing announcements in the media, and it's terrible. Their people are, they check the media every single morning. They check the newspaper, check the news to find out if their division or their department has been shut down. That is not the way for your people to find out that their jobs may be in jeopardy. Keep your employees informed. Employees, if you're struggling, employees can handle bad news. What they can't handle is uncertainty. They lose trust in you, they lose trust in the organization, and they become less productive because of that loss. Now, remember, humans resist change. It's the habenula of our brain. It resists change. We love normal routines, but we can, as leaders, control that change. And once people realize it's a change, but it's going to be okay, then we adapt fairly quickly to that change. Our habenula kicks right in and goes, oh, okay, this is going to happen. It'll be okay. So we do have a succession turnover checklist. And this is something every single key position in your organization should have. What do you spend most of your time doing? What are your goals? What does the org chart look like? What do your people do? Who's on your team? When are performance appraisals due? What personnel gaps do you have? Can you review your team's information with HR? How deep is your talent bench? What kind of budgets do we have? And is there anything I need to know legally? So it's just a quick checklist. And there's all kinds of other things that pertain specifically to your business and your job. But now is the time for the planning team to meet with individuals in key positions and do an interview with them if they don't already have a turnover binder to make sure that this happens. Now, some organizations need a little bit of help with their leadership promotion plan. And I completely get this. For some of you, you might need that leadership promotion plan. And that means asking the right questions with open and honest conversations and making sure you've got the right, well, maybe not the right answers, but honest answers. So some questions you can ask your people are, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? And is that with us? And what do you picture doing? What parts of this business, this mission really interest you? What do you love about what it is we do? I asked this question yesterday to a group of people. I said, what do you love about this organization, what you get to do? And especially in a time of uncertainty, it shifts the thought. People went, wait a second, what do I love? And they had to think about it for a second. And all of a sudden they came up with really interesting answers. And even their boss was surprised. So it's a great question to ask. So where are you in terms of your next position? Are you totally ready, very ready, somewhat ready, or you're kind of hopeful? And this is, again, something you can start talking to your people about. What current skills do you have that align really well with your future desired position? And what skills do you want to develop and be more successful with in your future roles? And then what is your plan of action to develop those skills? And again, I'm not saying put the burden on your employees, but say, hey, what's your plan of action? And if they say, well, I don't know. Well, wait a second. Don't you think you should have a plan of action if you want to be promoted? Oh, I don't know. They may not be the person to be promoted. However, if they say, well, I've actually gone back to school to get my bachelor's. I went to school to get a master's degree in our industry. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Or I've been taking classes from a lot of the online schools, because most schools now have online programs, and I've been learning about this and this and this. Oh, wow. Okay. Would you like to use those skills in the workplace? Well, yes, I just didn't know how I could do that. Okay, let me get back to you. Let's put together a plan to do that. So now you're working together, and this is really helpful. So what skills do you want to continuously develop? What do you want to expand? The leadership development plan is in the book called 5 Minutes Per Week, 52 Weeks to Building a Better Business. And I put this book together again so that my leaders could just tackle one specific thing once a week for a very short period of time, for 5 minutes. And whether it is on business planning, business growth, productivity, teamwork, or leadership, the idea behind this is you just do one 5-minute plan for a week. You start it for 1 week, you focus on that, and you move on to another plan next week. And it's continuously improving the organization in a short amount of time. That's the idea. So I do have all kinds of downloads for you, and they are available in Kiwi Live, just so you know. And if you do text the word dog, always dog, of course dog, to join by text, you get a secret peek into all of these vaults. And the number to join is 66866. Again, it's 66866 from your phone, and text the word dog, D-O-G, dog, always dog. Now, your board of directors, if you have one, needs to be involved in this as well. The board of directors needs to understand what's going to happen. Now, some of your boards of directors may also be planning their own exit. So you've got to be planning for what's going to happen there as well, because their job is to provide you with all kinds of resources, and as well as being a sounding board for you, but also be guiding your business forward. So this is critical that they're involved. Now, your suppliers, your partners, and your vendors, also critical. You want them to know if you're making any changes, because they may be wondering, well, can I depend on you for what it is you supply to me? Are you going to continue to buy from us? I thought we were partners in this project. Are you still going to be our partner? Keep them informed. Many people say, well, I don't have to, the people I buy from, why would they care that we're having a leadership change? Because a leadership change is an uncertain situation. And your customers and clients, they want to know too. They absolutely want to know as well. You've got to remember that they need you to have a great succession plan in place so that they are assured of what happens next. So I had a young person who shared with me a story that when she graduated from college, she went to her boss and said, hey, I've got an engineering degree, but I know I should be smart about money, and I don't even know where to start. I know there's a million books out there. Tell me what book to read. Just, you seem pretty smart. Everybody says you're pretty good with money. And he says, oh yeah, I've got a great financial planner, great financial advisor. Let me set you up with an appointment. So her boss set her up with an appointment with a great financial advisor who very kindly gave her about an hour and a half of his time. And he said, hey, this is what I would do if I were you. This is a plan. He mapped out a plan for all of this. And she was being sent overseas for her first job. And that's why she wanted this done before she got sent overseas. And he was about 60, 65 years old. And she said, I'm going to be overseas, and I'm going to be sending you 10% of everything I make for the next 3 years. And he said, yes. And then I will invest it, and we're going to do this. And he had a great plan. And she says, well, what happens? He was not with a large firm. She says, what happens if something happens to you? And he said, don't worry. I think my son might take over the business. Wait a second. You think your son might take over the business? Does he have a degree in financial planning? Does he know how to advise people? Does he know where all the money is? Like, I'm just going to turn my money over to you, and you don't have a plan for what happens next? She did not invest with him, even though he gave her great advice and was very generous with his time, because he didn't have a succession plan that he could share with his clients and customers. Don't underestimate the need for doing this. It matters to your customers. You have to communicate the strategy. You have to strengthen the relationships, and you have to reassure that you're still able to deliver what it is you deliver. So as a quick wrap up, I just want to let you know, I believe every organization, large and small, needs a plan for succession planning. And you need to communicate with your customers about that change. You need to communicate with your employees about those changes. You need to identify the talent gaps in your succession plan. You need to decide which succession planning model needs to best adapt to your organization. You need to find the next generation of leadership within the organization. And there may be unique emotional complexities of a family-owned business. So that's huge. There are more resources, like I said, at Who Comes Next, including a free chapter of the book. And again, this is how you get hold of me. Meredith will also be happy to talk with you about any succession planning things that you might have questions on. And you can take a picture of this slide. And if I can help you with any of your succession planning needs or anything else, to deal with leadership or economics, just give me a call. I would love to chat with you. Thanks so much for your time. Have a great event.